WLPN LP Chicago, 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You're listening to What's Good, Cicero Gente del 60804. I'm April from Cicero Independiente, and I am here with Michelle Ramirez from Cicero. She's dedicated her life to working in nonprofits, serving her community, ensuring family voices and experiences are at the table, and connecting families to resources available. In July of 2025, Michelle has established Tejiendo Voices, LLC, where she is able to bridge language barriers through quality interpretation and translation services. Michelle is an author of Libérate, Moments of Strength and Perseverance, and has been a contributing author to anthologies that include Today Inspiring Young Latinas Volume 3, Girl Heal, Moms Rise and Thrive, Latinas Who Lead, and her current contribution is in 100 Women That Lead. Michelle is also currently in the Masters of Social Work program at Eric's Institute. How are you doing today?
Hi, good morning.
Hello.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Was eating my breakfast in the car on the way here, trying to rush. How have you been?
Good. Multitasking like always. Always on the go, but, making things that are great for myself and my community. So can't complain too much.
And for those who don't know, I had connected with you in 2021, and you were the first, kind of profile that I highlighted at Cicero Independiente that was me writing, because my background was in photography, but this was the first time I was able to, mash the both up. And during then, it was to highlight, I remember, because it was cool to see people in the community get highlighted and to know that someone was an author and rethinking what does success mean, because I think people are an author is someone that makes millions and millions of dollars or has a trilogy that's getting made into a movie or
right.
TV show or something, but how to highlight the local aspect of it, of elevating community members and how their milestones are successes in themselves. And at that time it was just Libérate. That was in English. But yeah, I don't know if you want to talk more about from basically your trajectory from 2021 to now and what has come up for you.
Yeah, thank you. So I did start, I want to say I was still working on the Spanish version of Liberate. And so like you mentioned, people sometimes think that, you're in this to kind of sell books and produce and just keep on going, but we are nowhere near being millionaires. I have focused on my books being accessible. So Liberate, both in English and Spanish, they're available at the local libraries. The goal is that families are able to access without having to purchase, right? They are also always, that is also always an option, but again, the focus has been to make these available. And that's even why I decided to translate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was very intentional in every single word choice in the Spanish version. So I did have someone review the grammar aspect because that's not my area, but word choice, it was absolutely all me right there.
Nice. And for again, those that might not know, this was your first book, and it was a collection of self-reflections that summarized. It was a bit before, wasn't it? Reflections over several years.
Yes, it was through a 2-year time period.
Okay.
They were reflections that I would write. I actually had more, but I would handwrite them and then I would throw them away.
Oh, no.
I know. And eventually I started to collect them and then type them and then just hide my USB. These were reflections from a 2-year span that when I was navigating being in a domestically abusive relationship.
Yeah.
So it wasn't physical, but it was more mental, emotional, and financial. So a little sneak peek into it. It does talk about just, my thinking process in filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in your early 20s. That's very chaotic to kind of figure out on your own and finding an attorney and things like that.
Yeah.
And so really, again, just documenting what that thinking process was like.
Mm-hmm.
My book it's organized by dates. It's not chronological. but the focus has been I was very intentional in leaving the dates that I wrote these things. So what happens when you read the book is that you see it fluctuate. So one day it's a super cool, good day, and the other day it just goes downhill, right?
Yeah.
But that's mental health. I couldn't ethically put out something that showed or fake showed, right? Mental health being clean and like this nice pathway, because that wasn't the case, and that it's not the case. And I think, again, in being vulnerable and being transparent, this is what my journey looked like.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a very bold move to decide to publish. I work in the community too, so that's always been something in my mind. What happens when partners see this, and then will people see me a different way? But I've kind of learned to navigate through that, and we all have our story. We all come from different experiences and backgrounds, and this is part of mine.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. And that's something I didn't know either, and I really like that you framed it in that way of like, this is actually what mental health looks like. 'Cause I think a lot of people do think, and even in our like Latina community, where I think people are like, no, I'm fine, or like not realizing that it's okay to be fluctuating, and it's okay to not have it like,
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, that it's like a journey,
right?
Or will be in waves.
Right. I'll figure it out. And also the ability to ask for support and assistance and just guidance, right? So I did go through navigating, like obtaining mental health services, so counseling. I did see, I always mix these up, but I ended up being prescribed anxiety meds. So the psychiatrist, I think it is, I always mix it up. And to this day, it's support that I have available, but I only do that through the balance of therapy. So again, we don't talk about therapy porque no estamos locos, right? We don't much less talk about taking medication to kind of regulate those imbalances happening inside. So one of my goals through everything is to normalize these conversations, because I always say we heal one conversation at a time, and you don't need to be in like super fancy spaces in order to do that. It happens in connecting as community.
Yeah, I love that. And back in 2021, when I did do the coverage of you, or like profile of you and your book, I remember there was something that had stuck out to me where you said one of your core memories was basically community in Cicero. And I'm wondering, like, for you, like, how, like, what does that mean for you? Because you're also very community rooted, and yeah, if you just want to share more about like what, like, yeah, how has that shaped out in your life, or especially during that time, like through childhood, through growing up, and then through choosing to stay in Cicero.
Yeah, so my family, they still live in Cicero. My dad moved out of state a couple of years ago, I think at this point, like 2 years ago. But prior to that, we all grew up in Cicero. I've been there since I was 10, and I'm 31 now. So it's, a little bit. I stayed around through high school, through undergrad at DePaul, so commuting, taking the pink line down to the brown line and so on. And so I have been very grounded in where I come from. So we are of immigrant backgrounds. We grew up low income. We definitely reflect our community demographics. So even through my various roles, when I work with community members, it's like I see my parents there, right?
Yeah.
Even when it comes to referring families, connecting them to services, I always tell them, I'm not going to refer you somewhere that I don't refer that I wouldn't refer my own parents to. So that comfort, that commitment in making sure families are properly serviced and that they are treated with respect and dignity, especially in a time that's been so complicated within the past year for our immigrant population. And it's been great. Right after college, I did a year of AmeriCorps service. So I was actually at Youth Crossroads, where I did my year of community work. And then fast forward to now, I'm currently at the Honor Kids Network program that we are housed under Youth Crossroads as well. So it's kind of a full circle moment.
Nice, yeah.
The ladies that we work with have seen me grow since I was fresh out of college up until now. They've been present in just every step. And I think their constant maternal motivation is really refreshing, and it's really nice. Every day I see them, they always find something nice to say and to just just keep on like letting me know, like, if you need help with childcare or something, right, while you go to school, let me know. So I always tell my baby, I'm like, well, you have a lot of community grandmas because,
Aw,
you know, they're
yeah.
like an extension of
Yeah.
throughout my pregnancy and everything. So again, they are just foundational to the community as a whole, to how I continue to develop.
Yeah. I love that. That's like very like heartwarming to see the extension of I guess like what community means and what
Right.
an extension of like communal family is.
Mm-hmm.
Um
And even sometimes, like if I'm at the grocery store, if I'm doing my laundry, it's very rare that I do not encounter someone I know. And then people are like, "Oh, you're Michelle, right?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." I went to get lunch one time, and I was walking to my car, and this lady was running after me, and she's like, "Oh, you helped me with my medical card
Oh,
years ago," and
yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, but you kind of like remember this tone and people's like face and their energy, right?"
Yeah.
So it's really nice to have these moments where people see that you're still around and you're still willing
Yeah.
to be of service to the community.
Yeah. And I think that also builds trust at the same time
Completely.
because if they like see you in the community and just see you in like non kind of institutional settings, just like being just
Right.
living every day, your
Right. At
everyday
the
life.
park with my
Yeah.
baby, you know?
Yeah. 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 And then I think it kind of gives kind of a credibility of that you are sharing like the best resources you
Mm-hmm.
can with them or connecting them to like whatever assistance they might need.
Right.
Yeah. I guess if you can, where do you feel your journey has taken you from putting out the first book? And I remember hearing you speak that that book was also an effort, like a communal and like
Mm-hmm.
family support effort where people like had your back, and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, so the creation of the book, I was able to confirm that writing contract, right, through community support. So I had a mentor. He's still very much around and continues to be there. But I didn't have the income or the funds. I had just filed a Chapter 7. I had no extra funds to sign off on a contract. And even though she was flexible and everything, so I did reach out to a couple of my mentors at the time. And I'm like, hey, I have this great opportunity. If anyone is willing to provide some sort of sponsorship, I'm like, I will pay you back. I just need to kind of get started, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, he reached out and he's like, well, what's the total? And I told him, he's like, okay, let me Zelle it to you.
Okay.
And he
Nice.
Zelled it, and then he gave me a time frame to pay back. That was done. So again, just yeah, having people also trust me to have that capacity and that ability to not just pay back, but to like pull through the projects I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
That also I think speaks volumes. But no, I think like throughout the entire process, it has, like you would start it off with, like, where has this writing journey taken me, right? It's opened so many doors, so many connections, so many aha moments. I think the number of conversations I've had with people in their community, moms mostly, it has been mostly women, but some men conversations too, where people feel comfortable to share their experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also been one of the main focuses. How can this help or provide some sort of enlightenment when someone is in that situation, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't just go through this to go through this. I didn't file a Chapter 7 just because, like, I need to make more of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think, again, it's opened a lot of conversations, and a lot of people have been vulnerable with me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great because then I think, like, again, healing one conversation at a time, you continue to have these conversations.
Yeah. And there was something I remember hearing you say, that like through like even though like your book are self-reflections, you put it out there as a way to I guess kind of start those conversations or have people like feel connected or feel kind of like they can see themselves in that situation. It's like, how do you see those connections forming, or like how do you like what I guess like what are your offerings that you through your reflections are what you want to offer to the community members?
I think that sense of safety, right? Of safety, if you're not alone. there's a lot of resources. There's a wealth of resources in the Cicero Berwyn area, and sometimes it's a matter of connecting to them, right? And even when you do the cold call to one of the agencies, it can feel very nerve-wracking, uneasy for someone to do that. I know because I put off 3 referrals for myself when I was looking for the services until I finally decided to like just go with it, right? And so if I can kind of like that warm handoff. So how do I connect families, or how do I connect community to the services that they need in a very gentle way, being sensitive to the situation that they might be undergoing. I think, again, many of our families have, well, by us having these conversations and looking for these services, we are breaking down generations of cycles of domestic violence and so on, right? The number of people that say, oh, I wasted so much time with this person, or I dealt with this for so long. That's one of the things that I've heard, like, I don't want to do for myself. I don't want to feel like I'm wasting my time. I don't want to feel that, I should be, I don't know, like doing more, getting more. Like, I don't like living with regrets. So if I can do something, I'm going to do something so that later on I'm also not kind of like thinking about it and what would have happened if I had done this. I think it's taking me to more spaces, more conversations, and always, just wherever we can make that impact.
Yeah. And it sounds too that through community, again, like you've like mentioned several things of like through like we're healing one conversation at a time. It also seems like mentorship in a way, like community mentorship, or like you had mentors that helped elevate you and gave you support in different ways, or were able to kind of like give you a footing.
Right.
And then it sounds like you pass it off too, like through your like jobs, and also like maybe through your books as well, because you're providing kind of like a basis for people to feel comfortable and like feel comfortable to share or know that there are other options and how mental health might look like.
Right. And even if I don't have the answers, because I don't have all the answers, right? So even if I don't have all the answers, I'm very honest. Like, I don't know, right? I'm stuck here. But give me some time. Let me see what I can figure out. So we know people, again, these connections then also might come in handy. Maybe someone is looking for, I don't know, experience in a certain area, and someone else has that or knows someone that does that. And again, that's another reflection of what community can look like, right? That mutual support, mutual growth.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. It's like also empowering. It's like through community we're empowering each other and strengthening each other.
Completely.
Yeah. Where do you think, because you mentioned a little bit earlier about community, or like through your different jobs, there like it was an extension of community or family. Where do you feel like that has taken you in like your other books that you've written?
I think so. I'm sorry. Can you rephrase that?
Yeah, sorry. I guess because like where do you? I think it's just like how basically where do you feel you've grown in extensions of yourself rather than like being like, because life happens.
Life happens.
Yeah, life happens and things change. But how are you still you throughout it?
I feel like that's always a work in progress. So some big changes in life have included being a mom, right? So I wasn't a mom before. And I mean, we co-parent as well. So it has shaped me or guided me to be more tune into my being fiercely vulnerable. So being so genuine, so loving with the kids, but also being fiercely, because I'm going to protect these, Yeah. So it kind of has, I don't know, people always told me pre-baby that like my life was going to change completely and I just lost who I was. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I don't want to lose myself.
Yeah.
So I've learned to incorporate. So if I have a book club meeting, then he's coming with me to the book club, right? So just finding a way, if I can take him with me, I will take him with me. He needs to be like embedded into my life. So that I can also continue to do my things. My identity is not just mom. My identity is as Michelle, and Michelle has many roles.
Yeah.
And so, there's that aspect. So learning that balance has been really, it's not perfect. It's never perfect. Some days I like to say I'm like all mom the whole day, and other days I'm all writer the whole day, and he's at daycare or he's with my sister. And some days I just have to focus on school, right? So, and then he has his little notebook and he's coloring next to me. Sometimes he can't get to my notes, and that's another story. But it's just finding that balance. And at the end of the day, all these identities and these shifts do change, or not change, but they become embedded. I think that's the word. They become embedded into my new version of who I am.
Okay.
So I'm excited to see what else life brings and how else we continue to grow. I think even in like challenging times, even though sometimes you don't understand why certain things happen, it all happens for a reason, and it might just take us a little bit longer to see that. But hopefully we do see that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. And how do you like go about, I guess, because you had heard people were telling you that you will basically kind of like lose yourself. How did you go about trying to find either people or like resources, or get the grounding so that way you would still be you, but it would just be like it would be just now Mom Michelle added into the mix?
Yeah, I think I'm very intentional with who I surround myself with. So I have had people tell me life isn't perfect. Like, you can't have it all. And so I'm like, okay, well.
That sounds a bit discouraging.
Right. Very, very. When you're postpartum, that's not very nice, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think you're postpartum forever.
Yeah.
But, then that maybe just wasn't my kind of person. And so just kind of making these boundaries, allowing people in that are supportive. And if they're not, then you're just not going to have the same access to me and my family that you might have had before. And I really have learned that, boundaries are not for other people to respect, because they're not. They're going to push them, right?
Yeah,
boundaries are for you to know how you are going to respond to people. So when people might try to, like, push the buttons, then that's when you're like, you know what, we can't have this conversation right now. I need to go, like, do things. We'll come back and revisit when we're ready. And I think, like, that's slowly not being afraid, or doing so even if you are afraid, actually, to be in certain spaces, connect with certain people. If opportunities come your way, I've learned to just go with it, because if it's coming to you it's for a reason. So that's kind of how I started the anthology books. I remember I was in a very dark space with everything going on in our community, and this uncertainty and violence going on, right, within the past year. And so I remember I was just like in my bathtub, like with my therapeutic super hot shower.
Nice.
And I was like, I need something to happen, like, universe, you need to do something at this point. I am not even kidding. The next day or like evening, that's when I connected with Her Empire Media, who is the one that I have done this the anthologies with. So Girl Heal, Moms Rise and Thrive, and the Latinas Who Lead, and 100 Women That Lead. So like, that connection happened, and we just rolled with it, and it kept on, like, we kept on connecting, and like our energies matched. And here we are 4 anthologies after.
Do you feel like, I guess, like, how, like, any like recommendations or like tips that you think or that you would want to offer to people? Because it sounds like you've always been very, like, grounded in who you are, and like rooted in who you are and what that means and what you want for your life. But I wonder if there's moments where you're like, I don't know if I'm on the right path.
All the time.
Like, okay.
Yeah. So recommendations for people that might be in that same position. Just go with it. Follow your intuition. I do think we have that sixth sense, right? So if something feels right, obviously I think you can also, like, think critically, like, what's best. You also need to have those, like, filters. But I think we often have that little voice inside ourselves that's kind of like self-sabotaging. Right? And so learning to, like, okay, I have this voice. Let me, like, I received what you're saying. Let me hush you. Let me push you away. Right? And then why not us So if you are presented or you have an opportunity to do something great, why not? Like, answer that. Why wouldn't you be able to do that as well? Other
Yeah.
people can do it. Maybe you're the first, right? So even if you are the first, then I think that's more than a reason for you to do certain things. And this goes from those exiting high school, transitioning into college. Remember when I was in that transition period, I couldn't even pronounce the numbers of tuition for DePaul because that was a big number. And I'm just like, you know what? We'll figure it out. We'll figure it
Yeah.
out. And scholarships. And that's to this day with my master's program. I'm like, I can't do this right now financially, not that tuition. But I'm like, you know what? We'll figure it out. And scholarships again. And I think we're so talented and we have so much to offer. And there's funding available out in the world. It's just a matter of like finding it
Yeah.
and applying. Even during my undergrad years, I remember one of my mentors, she was in one of the offices there. She encouraged me to apply to I forgot one scholarship that was like $5,000, and I'm like, I can't get that. What do you mean? And she's like, yes, you can. And so she had me apply, or she encouraged me to apply, and I did, and I earned the scholarship.
Nice.
So I think people often see what we don't see in ourselves. So kind of finding that balance, like listening to others because if they're coming to you, it's for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But also following that intuition that we also have.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've had that voice of that mentor who like do you carry that with you now, or you're like, no, I'm not gonna say I can't, I'm gonna say like I can?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, she's still, and we're still connected, and
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
and there's a lot of mentors, right? So when you encounter these great people that are positive influences, this is also how you build your village. So I know she was also one of the ones that encouraged me also to like seek therapy.
Yeah.
And I think like connecting, this is just like mental health in general is something that everyone encounters. I always say everyone needs therapy.
Yeah.
Whether or not you have experienced a traumatic event in your life, you need it because we also have the generational trauma, right? So traumas that are like come out from our body or demonstrated one way or another from traumatic things that happened to those that came before us.
Yeah.
So again, everyone needs therapy at some point, I feel like. And, having, again, these conversations in order to make this not as taboo, because even though I feel like that vibe is kind of going away, it's still present and it's still based on certain, like age groups, right? That some people can be more comfortable with a topic versus others.
Yeah. That like makes me think too right now, like with, I feel like there is a shift in like people like starting to like seek therapy, but I've thought about it like recently with everything that has gone on in Cicero, with like immigration, like how how do you, yeah, I guess like what is your thinking, or like what have you encountered or like told people, or if you've even encountered people, but like to process things, or to know that like, hey, like maybe you should seek like these resources, or do XYZ if you feel like this way, or
right.
Yeah.
I think being very vulnerable, like that impacted me, right? Having that anxiety as well. My family was directly impacted by immigration enforcement as well. And so even with our little ones, my baby's 2, and he notices when one of our family members isn't present, right? Yeah, so it's traumatic, and I think like even for those that are pregnant or have been pregnant, like in that time frame, like your baby, the one born, is still feeling this tension because mom is feeling it. So validating how traumatic these things are, and how it's normal because our bodies are responding, and like scientifically, we're human. We're human, so it's not possible that these things are not going to impact you. And even like elementary aged children, their classmates talk, their teachers talk. And that's, I think, again, where you need to also focus on building those support groups, right? Support groups, or your support people, the key people that are able to kind of help process, and we can process together, right? One of the things that we've done at work is we've just had like circles, like just safe circles, and we just talk about things, because many of us live in the community, but we're also serving the community. So it's like double the like, let me figure out how to help my families, but also my family. And Yeah, I think often I've been asked, but it's going to be okay, right?
Yeah.
And I can't say we're gonna
Right.
be okay. I can't say it's. All I know is that we're gonna do our best to like stay
Yeah.
afloat, right? And that we're all in this together. But it has been incredibly difficult. And again, we just need to process together and navigate it and being responsive. So we've done
Mm-hmm.
a lot of, hey, do you need me to pick up your kids? Do you need me to take your
Yeah.
kids? It is exhausting to add more things to do
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to like my schedule, right? But at the end of the day, even professors have been very genuine and kind and intentional in like the grounding exercises that we do.
Mm-hmm.
One of my professors in my anti-oppressive class, he also has. I really loved what he said, and I keep on quoting him. Something, and I have my notebook at home with it. But he said that self-care is not separate from the work that we're doing.
Okay.
It's part of the work that we're doing. So by us taking care of ourselves, that impacts how we show up for our families. If we're not taking care of ourselves in the middle of all this mess, then there's no way we can show up as attentively and just wholesome to the families that we're working with, whether it's like your like work or just a community that ends up reaching out.
Mm-hmm. And what are like ways that you practice self-care? Does it change depending on like your capacity or
Absolutely.
okay?
Yes. Self-care, sometimes I'm used to running around, driving around actually to like different things. But self-care can be anywhere from taking like my bath that I mentioned earlier. My family knows if I'm in the bath, do not knock on my door. That's my time. One thing that I do when I'm in the bath is I take off all my jewelry, all my rings, everything. I'm there as Michelle, right? Not with any of my additional roles. But even, sometimes we are all very busy and you feel that you don't have even 2 minutes to yourself.
Yeah.
But you do have those 2 minutes because when you park, you can take those 2 minutes to do a breathing exercise.
Okay.
And just doing that regulates everything going on inside and just calms down your nervous system. So that right there is an act of self-care. So it's something, again, you don't need like the subscription. You don't need like a yoga mat, right? You just kind of do it on your own.
Yeah.
That and also making sure that you do stay hydrated. I am big on coffee. I always have coffee on me. But making sure that coffee is not just water, even though I try to fake it, but making sure that you do stay, give your body the essentials that it does need. Because again, otherwise your body is going to end up crashing and then it's going to be more inconvenient because you didn't have this on your schedule.
Yeah.
So
you didn't set this crashing time.
Right. Yeah. So it's all preventative work so that we can be able to be present.
Yeah. How do you think, or I guess like if you can share more of like about your different roles, about like who Michelle is, and then your work role, what you've gained from being in school, and then how if like Tejiendo Voices, your LLC is like a different role, or how all those shape out to shape the entirety of Michelle.
Yeah, so I think they're all definitely an extension of me one way or another. Much of this is organic things that I already do, and we're just kind of like labeling at this point. So we all kind of grew up interpreting, right? Interpreting and translating documents. That's in our nature. And so in 2020, I was able to take a training through the DuPage Federation. And so they were able to provide me the ability to do that. So what I have been able to do, I have been even like interpreting at IEP meetings, for example.
What are those for people who might not know?
Yes,
IEP?
yes. Thank you. So if their child has a certain disability or they might need extra support, then parents are able to have, or they should be having these meetings with the whole academic team. So from social workers, sometimes the principal has joined, all the teachers and the parents, right? Just to make sure that the plan, it's an individualized education plan. So making sure that the child has everything that they need to succeed in their academic spaces. But that's very critical. It is very critical that parents have access to that information, right? So again, it's just doing what we were already doing, but just doing it more officially. And to everyone, I have been able, I'm very picky with interpretation. So sometimes I'm like switching between, like if something is bilingual online, I always switch to see what other interpreters are like, because then that also helps me improve in the quality service I give to families.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about like the Tejiendo Voices, right? Interpreting, translations, some consulting we've done through that. And then with work, again, it's the connecting families to services, making sure that we always have family voices at the table. So everything that we do, we don't do to families, we do with families. Another important aspect of my role at work is that there is this referral platform. It's called Iris. It's pretty cool. It's something that's available across various states.
Okay.
And so the goal of that is to not just make sure that we're sending referrals, but that they're actually addressed. So you close out the referral loop.
Okay.
So, it's inevitable.
So you're not leaving families in limbo, kind of.
Exactly. And we know that our nonprofits are super saturated and understaffed, and the level of need is so high. So it tends to happen, right? But even one family is too much. So this is one of those attempts. So always finding a way to recruit different organizations that could participate in this. Because then it's not just like numbers and data on like referrals, but it's families, right?
Yeah.
So you put like the names to like
You
10
humanize
referrals
them.
and but yeah, so that's mainly what I do at work. There's so much stuff that we kind of do. We also have developed a rapid response, not rapid, community response.
Okay.
So with all of this going on, families have been unable to work as normally. So we have been able to get donations from different partners for diapers, winter coats, things that families need. And they're either gently used or new, and we are able to provide those for families that don't feel comfortable going to the office. If it's like an active day, then we say, don't even worry about it. I'll go drop it off.
Yeah.
So again, kind of meeting not families halfway, but meeting families where they are. So that's a little bit about work, and somehow all of this kind of blends in into what I am, but I don't feel like I have like my work identity. I don't feel like it's like different identities.
Okay.
It's all me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I think it's a very interesting thing to do to navigate all these things. We were family planning when I joined this role, and so I love that I am able to implement all the things that I learned at work with my baby and at home. Similar with school, you mentioned school too. So master's in social work, I'm doing a 3-year plan, so it's going to be a little bit of time, but there's no way I could do a 2-year right now. But again, how do I put like the academic terms to the things that we're doing, right? So even being very intentional and conscious in how we work with our families is doing anti-oppressive work. But when people hear anti-oppressive, it sounds like this is a radical thing, right? Which it is. Yes, absolutely. But there's small ways that we can do this kind of work, rocking whatever boat you have to rock in order to get families the things that they need in a very equitable way.
Yes. Well, thank you, Michelle. If you can give a quick summary of what your newer books are about and where people can find out, because you've done some events too, right? And
a couple. I'm slowly trying to get back into doing events. So we did have a pop-up in the past already. A couple of weeks ago, it was at Chicana Boutique in Berwyn. By the time that I believe that this airs, then we should be having some books there available already. I'm hoping, we are planning on having like some conversations, like a
talk.
A talk. Yeah. So there's no logistics just yet, but people can follow the socials, which is Michelle Writes, and we'll add the links later. But that's the way that people can keep up with the different events. There's also a newsletter that people can subscribe to in order to keep up and receive other resources. I always try to incorporate some community resources as well.
Is that through Tejiendo Voices, or where can people find the newsletter?
Through my website. So Healing and Heritage. I'll send you the link directly.
Okay, Healing and Heritage. All right, sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I am glad to have been able to talk to you and to have you share more about just who is Michelle and all the different capacities that you have.
Thank you. It was great to be here.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you. Till next time, let's go to Cicero.